Hey guys, Trevor with Shadow Systems, Technical Tuesday. We're going to do a video on our backstrap system and explain kind of how it works because I think there's a little confusion on that. And I'm going to start by actually showing you the pieces of the backstrap system so you understand what we're even talking about. Again, Shadow Systems backstraps do not change the grip size, the circumference per se. They're changing the angle. They're changing how the gun points. And you might say, well, how do you achieve that? By just changing the backstrap. So I'm going to show you that. But first, let's walk through what's in the system. So let me point this out first. The magazine well is on this gun right now. I grabbed a gray frame gun and I'm going to put black backstraps on it so you can really see the distinction of where the backstrap sits on the frame. But we do now ship the magazine well on the gun for those guns which include it. And that would be basically the combat optic and elite versions of the MR, DR, and XR models. There is no mag well that comes with the Foundation series, although you can add one. And there's no magazine well for the subcompact pistols, the CRs. Okay, let's do this really fast. So we do include a cool tool. I'm going to use it to take off the magazine well, which is of course a separate piece. This is a plug that goes in if you're installing the magazine well. So I'm actually going to take that out also so we can just see what the basic backstrap looks like. Okay, the backstrap slides off here and there's a dovetail for it. And what's included with the gun is basically 3 different sizes, which are kind of hard to distinguish visually. So you may not see a real difference, but if you shoot the gun and you dry fire and learn it, you certainly will see a difference. So if you look inside the backstrap, and I know you probably won't see it here, that's where you'll see a little letter, L for low. That is the orientation of how the backstrap makes the gun point. So L for low, N is neutral, and H is high. So this is an H backstrap way down in there. You can see it. This makes the gun point higher. So that's indicating the direction of the point. It's not small, medium, and large. I'm going to put one on the gun just so you can see kind of the distinction for where it sits. And you'll see there's a really, really nice kind of seamless appearance. Like you really almost can't see it in the texture, which I'm very proud of. I like how that looks. It looks like one piece. If you're just installing the backstrap, there's a couple of plugs that come with the system. I realize they're kind of small, but the one that's flat is the one you would put in if you are not installing the magazine well. It's just a plug. You don't actually need it. And then you would install the pin. So there's a pin that goes through a little hole here on the side, and that's what locks the backstrap in. Okay, so very simple. That's how the backstrap goes on. I'll go ahead and finish installing it so we have it, and then we can go and now talk about why this works, because I want to understand the why behind this stuff too. All right, I'm at the board. I'm going to draw a pistol frame really quickly, so bear with me. And I'm going to actually put the gap in there that's for the backstrap. Here comes the trigger guard and the rest of the gun. Okay, so we have an axis that the bore is pointing down, okay? And then we have the backstrap. I'll use a different color. The backstrap, which lives sort of right here, okay? Right? So when you place your hand on the pistol, you create a pivot point right here. You create a pivot point at that location inside the backstrap. So you can think of a pivot point as being right there. That's the pivot point between where the muzzle is oriented and how your hand is holding the gun, okay? And so you really can draw an imaginary line between the pivot point and sort of the tallest portion of the backstrap, the highest point on the backstrap. And as I change that highest point, even though the front strap isn't changing, as I change that highest point, I'm basically pivoting around the beaver tail and I'm reorienting the muzzle. So what I mean is, if I have the high backstrap on the gun, it's going to sit up high on the bottom, which makes the muzzle sit up in my hand more like this and makes the gun point high. Okay, if I put the low backstrap on there, the tallest point on the backstrap is flatter, it's lower down. So when I grab the gun, the muzzle is depressed and it comes down, okay? So people sometimes try to make correlations between our backstraps and other guns in the market. I mean, I would say the flat backstrap points more like a 1911. High backstrap points more like a Glock that has kind of the hump in the grip. And M&Ps or SIGs or whatever, they're going to be more like the neutral backstrap. The guns ship with the neutral backstrap. If you're not sure the one for you, these are very subtle changes. Just learn to shoot the neutral one. For most people, they leave it on there and they love it. Okay? But if you're like a hardcore Glock shooter, you might benefit from the high. If you're a hardcore 1911 shooter, you might benefit from the low. And it just really comes down to personal preference. How do you select the backstrap? This is what I tell people to do. So obviously unloaded gun in a safe room, and you take your backstrap tool and you put on the backstrap that you're interested in testing, and then you just pick something across the room. There's a shadow logo over there on that banner, so I can look right at it. I'll start from the high ready. I just close my eyes and point the gun, and then I see where the dot is. Don't worry about if you're off left to right, because we're not controlling that. What we care about is my muzzle oriented high? Is the dot really high on the wall, or is the dot really low on the wall? Okay? So if I were to stick the gun out and I'm pointed down, I would say, oh, I need the high backstrap, which is going to raise the muzzle way up, right? Or if I had the high backstrap on there and I pointed the gun, and I'm exaggerating and it's pointing at the ceiling, well, I know I need the neutral or the low backstrap. So it's all relative. You're making your selections relative to how each backstrap is moving the muzzle for you. So if you grab the neutral backstrap and you close your eyes and you stick the gun out and you're pretty much right there, you're probably done. Okay. And I said dot, but you can obviously do this with your iron sights as well. So the whole purpose again is to change the angle of the grip, the point of the gun, so that it works for you. It works by pivoting around the web of your hand on the beaver tail, and it's a very simple system that includes 3 backstraps, high, neutral, and low, and a tool and a magwell if it's not a foundation or a CR gun. So you can experiment and find what works best for you. If you have questions about our backstraps, if you have a favorite backstrap, tell us in the comments, and we'll see you next time.